Hello everybody, JCC Anime here, and today we are here to review my love story with Yamada-kun at level 999, or Yamada-kun to level 999 no koi wo suru. I probably said that wrong, but we're just gonna roll with it. So, what is the story of this series? Basically, after the girl Akane gets dumped by her boyfriend for a girl he met in the game they were playing, she's a bit unsure of what to do, and then she decides to go to this convention that the same game is hosting, and well, it's not really a convention, but it's a little festival thing, and she happens to run into one of the most popular players, at least in the local area, Yamada, who's also a person she kind of knows in the game, but not too well. And from there, their love story slowly starts to begin, as Yamada doesn't really fully understand women, he doesn't really get romance, stuff like that, he's mainly focused on the game, and there's a little more, like, stuff to it, but that's the basic start of it, so, yeah. That wasn't the best description, but we're just gonna roll with it. So, in terms of spoiler-free thoughts, I think it was a decent time. I didn't think it was like the best thing ever. It's not something like my top favorite romance anime, such as Love is War and The Dangers of My Heart, which is just some of my all-time favorites. But I still found some charm in this. Even though I don't think it's the best thing to ever come out of the romance genre. I knew it was like popular when it came out, but I wouldn't say it's, as I said before, the best thing ever. There are moments I like. There are moments where characters have interesting interactions, and I like how, even though Yamada and Akane are the main characters, there are some other characters that get some attention in there, such as the character of Runa or Eita, who kind of get their own little moments here and there, although Eita's more of a just a side background supporting character. But basically, I like how some of the side characters also get some developments. However, I think one of my favorite things about this series just in general is how much there's actual interactions between Akane and Yamada. Like, there's plenty of romance anime out there where they'll have these two characters slowly start to fall in love, but barely have them interact that much. They'll have them in scenarios with each other, but tons of other people will be in those scenarios. But there's lots of nice one-on-one moments between these two characters that I really appreciate, so that way when things occur as they do throughout the story, it becomes a lot more believable. And there's just a lot of really interesting things, especially with how they manage things in a way, so that way I never really disliked any of the main cast of the story. Even the boyfriend who dumps Akane ends up being actually a kind of interesting character. Even though he's not perfect, there is a bit of an understanding to his character. While I don't entirely agree with him, it is an interesting viewpoint. So, yeah. If I had to give this show some like negative points, it would be that sometimes the comedy wasn't that funny. There were moments where they were just trying their best to be absolutely funny, and I could tell they were really pushing for a joke there, but I just wasn't really laughing. And there were times where it felt like they were just doing these random shots to pan out the episode. But not always. I guess there's just this weird thing where during the anime, there are lots of these moments where they'll just pan to a character across the screen. Like, they'll have a character in a certain pose, just them like panning across the screen, and that happens a lot in this anime, and it's not like it's a bad thing. I'm pretty sure the anime Horimiya does the exact same thing. It's not bad, but sometimes it feels like it goes on for just a bit too long, and it's just to kind of fill out the runtime, and they do it a lot, so that's what really made me think about it that way. Just overall, there are some things here and there that didn't really sit as well with me, but I do mostly enjoy a lot of this anime. I wouldn't say it's perfect. It's nothing like truly astounding. It didn't make me just get all like emotional in my seat like with some of the other animes I mentioned before did, but it was still a nice little wholesome anime that got a lot across. So yeah, that's all you can really spoil without saying anything, so we're just gonna hop into the spoiler section now. Here's the timestamps when the spoilers end. If you have seen the show, I'd recommend sticking around to hear my thoughts, but if you haven't, just skip to the end so you don't get any spoilers. But again, if you have seen it, I recommend sticking around and hear my thoughts. So yeah, I'm gonna cut up for 5 and enter the spoiler section. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so one of the very interesting aspects of this show, as I mentioned before, is the main dynamic between Akane and Yamada. I really like how many moments there are in this show where it's just the two of them interacting with one another in multiple different ways, and it didn't actually go the way I was expecting it to. I was originally expecting it to be a situation where after Akane got dumped by her boyfriend, she goes drinking and then happens to run to Yamada and falls in love with him and is trying to win him over, because that's what the title made me think, because it made it sound like she was fighting a big boss-like love interest, but that's not the way it went. Instead, it was both of them just slowly growing their feelings towards one another in a moderately decent pace. If anything, I feel like the gaming aspects that the show had, because there's like, as I mentioned before, they were playing games and stuff like that. The boyfriend and Akane at the time were playing games together, and she still continued to play the game even after their breakup. I feel like the game had some missed potential moments, but I didn't hate the fact that it wasn't entirely incorporated into the story. In fact, it's kind of just on the side. It's not a big problem, but it is very noticeable that sometimes for something they're trying to build as a very important part of the characters' lives is kind of sidelined for the main romance of the interaction between the characters, which isn't a bad thing. Just that I feel like with all the moments that happened here, there are certain essences of build-up, I guess, that I don't know if that's the right word for this, but there's just some build-up that just kind of feels off at times. Like, there's this other character that's introduced called Tsubaki, who is introduced as another potential love interest for Yamada, revealing that she kind of had feelings for him as well. And in the 11th episode, she ends up confessing to him, and then he's like, no, I actually am in love with Akane. And when that happens, I'm just in there like, I mean, she's fine, but she hasn't really had enough of a character for us to really understand her yet. She did get a bit of time to develop things with Akane, where she got to know her a bit better and see that she was a good person, but we never really dove deep into who she was as a character. I thought maybe it would be revealed by the end of the series that she was the girl that Yamada ended up hurting when they were kids, because Yamada was always hanging out with this girl, and this girl's like, just like, all right, Yamada, let's stay together forever. And he's just like, yeah, no, I can't say that'll happen. And she, cries and stuff like that. And I felt like there was supposed to be some connection there, but apparently I was wrong. I don't fully know, but I definitely feel like she, Tsubaki felt like she had some moments that could have had development, but other times not so much. She's definitely one of those characters where I'm not really sure how to react to her as a character. Like, is she someone I should feel emotional for? Or should I not care about at all? I don't know. She was a very conflicted character for me. So when I saw her crying after the rejection, it was less of me thinking, oh, I feel sorry for her, and more than anything, I just was like, okay. Like, I think the biggest flaw with this show at times is that unless it's a super focused on supporting character, most of the time things do stick to Akane and Yamada, which I said before isn't a problem, and it's not. It just feels like some of the side characters didn't have enough potential brought through to the end, since they definitely could have done a lot more. I mean, one side character actually really stole the show with the character of Runa, who is like this spoiled princess girl who doesn't like things to change. She's willing to accept change when, people scold her about it, and she eventually does start hanging out with Akane and caring about and getting to know her. But throughout most of the story, it's clarified, like, well, at least when they first meet, that she doesn't like change. And even after accepting Akane, she still doesn't like change. She still finds a lot of elements about the idea of having more people in their group annoying. And it's kind of an interesting character, since I feel like out of everyone, Runa had moments of development that she really needed to fix upon, and I wish we could have explored that a bit more, especially since she has such an interesting cast surrounding her. But still, overall, I definitely feel like the main couple of Akane and Yamada was super interesting, and I was actually quite surprised that they didn't try to pull the cop-out that a lot of romance animes do, where it looks like, oh, they're gonna confess at the end of the season? Well, oh, something happened that blocked it like confession, so we're saving it for another season. No. After the admission from Yamada that he does like Akane, after he admits to that, he then, after meeting up with them, eventually just tells her straight after she asks him if he likes her. He just tells her, so you figured it out, I like you. And it was a very nice moment to see the two of them finally just get together and set things up. And it's a rare thing I really see in anime. See the characters actually confess to one another by the end. Even the show I mentioned before that I really like, The Dangers of My Heart, doesn't have that set up, but there are moments of that, but I'll leave that for some other time. But yeah, overall, I did find myself enjoying this anime a lot. There were a lot of nice moments in it, and while I wouldn't say it's definitely one of those best all amazing, phenomenal rom-com animes, it's not one of the best ones, I could see some charm to it, and I kind of understand why people wanted to give the show a shot, since I'm pretty sure, in terms of rom-coms, this one, during its season, was one of the more popular ones, ignoring all the other big names that were out there. I don't know how many big names were out there, but I know this is one of the ones that was sticking up in a lot of people's charts. I was just curious about how it was, since I'd not really dove into it yet, but after giving it a watch, I think it was decent. I wouldn't say it's the best love story ever. I wouldn't say it was anything like super phenomenally spectacular and better than everything else, but it has its own little self-charm, I guess. It has some decent moments in it that I found decently enjoyable, and yeah. That's all I really have to say, so we're at the conclusion of this video, and what are my final thoughts? This anime is decent. I wouldn't say it's the best thing ever. I wouldn't say it's the worst thing. It's just decent. I think it's an okay anime that has some nice charm to it, and I wouldn't be against watching it again since it has some nice moments in there. So, yeah. That's why I give My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999 a 7 out of 10. Not perfect, not terrible, but a fun little watch if you want to spend some time to just enjoy a nice relationship grow between two different individuals. And yeah, that's all we have to say, so thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I was looking to anime fans to the channel, and I will see you all around. Peace!